Elon Musk, as the CEO of Twitter right now, is exposing that. And you have to extrapolate out the same things that are now being found. They never thought this would happen at Twitter. So they were not careful about the sorts of things they were writing on internal company chats, the emails. They thought they were in the woke battleship of all battleships. They were good to go. They were protected from on high. I want to talk to you a little bit about what I've seen happening right now over at Twitter with Elon Musk. I haven't yet developed, somebody talked about my impressions and voices in the last hour. I haven't yet gotten a really good Elon impression, but I'm working on it because he has a very particular cadence. But that's a conversation for another day. Elon, as you know, we've talked about it many times, bought Twitter, $44 billion, give or take $1 billion here or there, something like that. He bought Twitter. And this is fascinating, even if you don't care at all about social media and Twitter, because of the implications for a whole range of issues. The collusion, I think the proper usage of the term in some ways, the collusion between the Biden administration and deep state elements and big tech to shut down speech, to ban certain people, to undermine some ideas and some points of debate and discussion. That is very much a reality. That has happened. And we have propaganda institutions. I mean, think about how their left is always pushing not just for a little bit, but for the kind of they call it transparency, but they don't want any anonymous political money to exist anywhere because they want to name, shame, threaten, swat, and destroy anybody who gives to causes the left doesn't like. That's why they're always saying, oh, you can't have any anonymous money anywhere. So they're always pushing for what they call more campaign finance transparency or getting dark money out of politics. The Democrats get so much more money in politics, as we saw from this midterm election, than Republicans do. But this is where we are, right? They say that they want to get the money out of politics, and then all the left-wing billionaires can buy things like the Washington Post, pretend there's no political agenda, and you're just supposed to accept it. Twitter is, look, it went for over $40 billion. It's obviously a very powerful, very, very influential social media platform. And I've been saying for years, and some of you will actually recall, it was in June of 2020, Rush Limbaugh himself read my tweet storm, if you will, about how we need to have that. Basically, we've lost the war for propaganda machinery in this country. They have all the artillery pieces, and we're firing .22 caliber rifles. Like, we can't keep up. And we need, in the social media realm particularly, and I just said we need a billionaire to come in and build an unsinkable aircraft carrier free speech. Rush read every word of that 15-tweet thread on air on the show, on his show, of course. And it now has come true. So it was I was sitting in bed just musing about this and what needed to happen, and Rush read it on air, and now here we are 2+ years later, 2.5 years later, and sure enough, this is reality. A billionaire did come along, buy one of the preferred propaganda tools of the Democrats, and it is no longer something they can use to the same effect they had in the past. Elon Musk is seeing all of this. And it used to be we would argue about this, but the Democrats would say, oh, it's just not true. Republicans just don't have popular ideas. And I can tell you this, a great frustration as a conservative who's trying to make the case publicly was if you got attacked personally, doxxed, you name it, the pile-on, the libs would not only let it happen, I'm telling you, they would accelerate it. And they would actively, if there was a big public dispute between a conservative on Twitter and anybody who was part of the apparatus, anybody who was in favor of the Democrats, you would all of a sudden, it would look like, wow, the Republicans just getting dragged and no one agrees with them. And they've been playing games with this. They have been truly rigging that game now for over a decade. and trying to shape and direct and mold perception and belief as much as they can. And the people doing this at Twitter, as we all see, are the worst kind of snowflake, woke lunatic. The worst. Running around whining, crying all the time, but if they can't get their way, no one can have anything. Freedom is violent. Speech is violent. Shut up and do what they tell you. They're horrible. I'm somebody who, I will tell you, if anything, I am too sympathetic to people. I feel badly when people get fired. I feel badly when even people get their just desserts. I think, oh, well, maybe their family's sad now. I do not feel that way for any of the woke Twitterati who have been fired, because not only do they deserve to be fired, they tried to undermine and even destroy careers of other people, and they thought they were heroes for doing so. So this is about justice. Every Twitter lib who cries, an angel gets its wings. I don't know. Or, is that maybe a little too much? You know what I'm saying. Elon tweeted this out, okay? And remember, he's the CEO. He has access to everything. He has seen whatever he wants to see at this point. The engineers who have kept their jobs are real engineers who just want to run a company well, want to run an online platform. The trust and safety and conversational health and super scared, emotionally unstable libs, they're the ones who have already been fired. So Elon is seeing what's going on at this. By the way, I'm going to tie this into the Hunter Biden laptop in a second. So I want again, this may have cost us the 2020 election, friends. That's why I'm talking about this. You know how we've been discussing, was the election on the up and up? And they say, oh, well, election. Yeah, there were some theories about what went wrong in 2020 that were not correct. There were other theories or allegations or accusations about how they changed the rules, rigged the game, and played dirty to win that were absolutely true. And it is incumbent upon all of us to separate those things and make sure that when we say they're full of it, they rigged it, that's not the way it's supposed to go, it's rooted entirely in fact. And I'm telling you, the rigging of the social media platforms is a matter of and a question of fact at this point. And Elon Musk, as the CEO of Twitter right now, is exposing that. And you have to extrapolate out the same things that are now being found. They never thought this would happen at Twitter. So they were not careful about the sorts of things they were writing on internal company chats, the emails. They thought they were in the woke battleship of all battleships. They were good to go. They were protected from on high. That was their thought, by the Biden administration, if nothing else, right? That the White House itself was working with them and making sure that any regulation would be something Twitter wants, not something that would actually deal with the challenges of free speech in this era and everything else. Here is what Elon is tweeting out. It is objectively the case that conservative political candidates were more negatively affected than progressive candidates. Anyone using Twitter knows this. The question is simply one of magnitude. Let's understand. It's one thing, right, if I say to you, I have been throttled. I mean, at one point I lost, I think, 150,000 Twitter followers in about a 2-week period after the 2020 election. But I've been throttled for weeks, if not months on end. I've had to go back and forth with Twitter. And I don't tweet that much as a result because I just feel like it's such a rigged game. It annoys me. But it was a totally unfair. I mean, some people, it's like they're telling us to run in a race, and some people had cement shoes on. And I'm somebody who had cement shoes on. There were some conservatives, by the way, I'm not going to name names, but who never seemed to get throttled. I think it's interesting. Some people were very cozy with the social media companies, talking about how, I don't like big tech and big censorship. It's like, well, have you ever been throttled or suspended? Because I have. What are you talking about? If you're a conservative, if you are a conservative and have never been a target of one of these social media companies, I'm talking about people that are public figures. I wonder, were you really fighting the fight? Because it's impossible to speak honestly about COVID, to speak honestly about the 2020 election, to speak honestly about transgender issues, and not run afoul of these companies. So people that didn't run afoul, hey, some people just, so I don't know. It's about the fame and the dollar signs, not about the cause. Anyway, the next thing Elon writes about all this is it has been really bad far-left San Francisco Berkeley views have been propagated to the world via Twitter. I'm sure this comes as no surprise to anyone watching it closely. Twitter is moving rapidly to establish an even playing field, no more thumb on the scale. And he writes, as is obvious to all but the media, there's not one permanent ban on even the most far left-wing account spewing lies. You hear that? This is from the CEO, the owner of Twitter. This is from the CEO. He's saying what we've been saying. They never banned the left. It was only the right. This whole banning thing when it comes to politics was an entirely partisan tool. And they were lying to you about it. You know, they were lying. They're saying, oh, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And it was completely the case that they were elevating lunatic left-wing ideas. You know, why is it that all of a sudden the left is saying, oh, yeah, drag queen story hour for 5-year-olds, you know, and strip shows and everything, and let's bring small children there. People saying, how'd the country get so crazy? The Twitterization of America has been occurring, my friends, where it's the battlefield of ideas, except one side has their hands and legs tied up, and they're supposed to fight against the other side. That's what has been going on here. But now this is the big one. Elon Musk has agreed, according to the New York Post, that Twitter should release all internal discussions concerning the censoring of the New York Post's Hunter Biden laptop story. He wants to release, you want to talk about release the Kraken, he wants to release the beast here. He wants to show everybody the ugly truth from inside of Twitter, because you know what you're going to find? People saying that basically some of them, not all of them, some of them were so sloppy and probably so secure in their, left-wing totalitarian thinking that they decided to say, out loud, meaning in a text, in an email, we just have to make sure Joe Biden wins this election, guys. Democracy is at stake. Now, you could say, oh, but Twitter's a private company. It can do what it wants. Well, not really, because it's actually perpetrating fraud. If you say you're running a free and fair media company, but you're not, and you're really just a tool of the DNC, isn't that a form of fraud? And I'll give you an example. Comcast is a major cable company. If Comcast decided in the weeks leading up to an election that they were just going to refuse to air any Republican ads on any of its, well, you'd say the FCC and the FEC probably would step in. There'd be federal regulations, federal-ish. Why is a social media platform different? Twitter made an in-kind donation under false pretenses to the Democrat Party in the 2020 election. The CEO is telling you that this is true already, okay? This is not speculation. Twitter made an in-kind donation to make sure that buffoonish, clown, incompetent Joe Biden became president of the United States. Because they knew the whole story about Joe the Uniter, who was just good old Joe. You could trust him. Yeah, rides the choo-choo to work. Just like you, takes a lunch pail every day. He's a working man, blue-collar folks. All that lying nonsense they told you about him. It's a lot harder when people think, hold on a second. His son is getting millions of dollars from the Chinese Communist Party and is taking 10% to the big guy, who's Joe Biden? You're going to lecture us about good governance and corruption and how messy the Trump years were and all this stuff? And we're basically putting the Biden crime family in office? I don't think so. So we're going to see some very ugly stuff here. But we already know it's true about what they did at Twitter, about how dishonest they were, and how they threw the election for the Democrats. You're going to see it. Our worst, what they say are conspiracy theories when it comes to this stuff, our worst fears have all been shown to be true about how dishonest and dishonorable the libs are in Silicon Valley when it comes to power and how they operate. So what Elon Musk is doing, this, if you look in the history of big moments for conservatives in media, there's obviously what Rush built here, right? And now we continue on to fight in his name and to try to perpetuate the legacy of what he stood for as much as we can on this show. But Rush was a one-man, unsinkable aircraft carrier for free speech. Fox News came along in 1996, finally a center-right channel in existence to give a perspective on America that, isn't just overrun with woke lunacy. The internet, the rise of the internet, and yes, I would even say the Drudge Report in its heyday. And now I think you look at Elon's purchase of Twitter as another moment, another sea change in the dialogue. This stuff is really, really important.